Are you struggling to find a win in a game of DUNE Imperium Uprising? Is this you? Well, don't worry, because I'm going to leave you with just one tip that will increase your chances of winning the game astronomically. What is that tip? Intrigues. So let's just go over where you could find these intrigues. First of all, Assembly Hall. Then there's Secrets. Early game, these two are very good. Then Sardaukar. Sardaukar, well, you get troops. It is expensive, and you get an intrigue. And the last one avenue is combats. This, you can get second or third, and depending on whatever the combat tier is, you can generate intrigues. So why do you want intrigues? Now, let me tell you why. So there's a lot of S tiers. Let me just quickly go through what are the S tiers. So there's these four, each of them helping you with faction bumps. Faction bumps are very good in Uprising because, well, there's not a lot of faction access, and there's not a lot of cards like in the shadows that generate you bumps easily. So any cards that generate you faction bumps is very good. Then there's the in-hand points, which I consider. These two cards can end the game round 6, round 7 unexpectedly, where nobody's expecting the game to end. Opportunism has another benefit where if you lose the alliance, you can always drop down 2, spend 2 Solari, and keep the point. Then these are the ones that I call the unexpected intrigues, the S tiers. Market opportunity and unexpected allies. Market opportunity, if you have 5 Solari and it's just it's a 5 spice that you're holding while nobody else knows. This could surprise people with a Highliner or maybe other perhaps shipping. Then there's unexpected allies. This one could instantly make a tier 3 combat for you from going 3 points to 5 points, because you get the 2 worms, because you get the double rewards on first place, and maybe you double the Solari and you get 12 Solari off of it. Finally, there's the troop generating S tiers. These two are very good because they can instantly sway the way the combat's going to be playing out. But depart for Arrakis, 3 troops, very strong. Mercenaries, 3 Solari, you get 2 troops, and you get an intrigue, which could also recycle back into another different S tier intrigue. But there's also more S tiers. These are strictly combat. So, questionable methods. I believe that any intrigue that provides 5 or more swords, or has the ability to provide 5 or more swords, is an S tier intrigue because of the way that combats are so important in this game. Finally, there's intelligence report. If you have 2 or more spies on the board, you draw 2 cards. Getting spies on the board is not hard. So, this intrigue, most likely you're probably getting 2 draws off of it. And what do those 2 draws get you? They could even give you access for a possible Highliner, or they could draw you into a spice with slow. Another point. Either way, I think these intrigues are definitely S tier. So, that was a total of 16 S tier intrigues we just went through. Now let's look at the A tiers. Cunning is the other intrigue that allows you to draw a card other than intelligence support. That's why it's an A tier, because drawing cards is important. Then there's these 2 intrigues, Special Mission and Distraction. They're very simple. You just place a spy. Distraction, if you put in 3 troops, you get to place a spy anywhere on the board. Pretty useful. Special Mission, same thing. You could either recall a spy as well for some resources. That's why they're A tier, because spies could either generate you draw or infiltration. Then there's the A tier combat intrigues. Any intrigue that provides swords is very good, because if you're playing early in the game, Tactical Option or Impress, 2 swords are very good because they can push you from maybe a 3rd place reward to a 2nd place reward, or in some scenarios, even from 2nd place to 1st place. Because these don't have the ability to provide, 5 or more swords, they're not S tier, but definitely any combat intrigue, if you pull it, it is going to be an A tier intrigue. Now let's look at some of the B tiers. Most of my B tier intrigues are endgames. So this is because, well, if you pull them early, then you could easily play for them, like Shadow Alliance or Secure Spice Trade. Or the endgames. If you pull one of the endgame matches and you don't have a match, well, you could easily push for a combat that could possibly match with it. Not bad. Then finally, there's also Detonation, which I believe is a B tier intrigue because it does need to be paired with another intrigue, because it's very conditional. Breaking the wall, you need to have worm access, right? If you don't have hooks, well, this intrigue is not very good. Also, you can deploy it before, but this also implies the fact that you have even 4 troops in your garrison, which is so hard, because troops are so scarce in this game. Finally, go to ground. This is a B tier entry because, well, it's you treat troops, you get a spy. Getting spies is pretty good, as we said previously, because they allow you draw, and infiltration, very strong abilities. But you do have to lose troops in the combat for this ability, so it's not bad, but that's why this is a B tier entry for me. Now, there's some C tiers as well. Shaddam's Favor and Call to Arms. These two are the troop generating C tiers. They're not bad because, Shaddam's Favor, if you pull it early, you can possibly get a first place in a combat because it's like Gurney's Ring. Think about it like that. Call to Arms, it could be useful if it's paired with Detonation, because you could buy a lot of cards on the row and then instantly deploy them with Detonation. So it doesn't need to be paired. That's why it's a C tier entry. Then Manipulate and Inspire Awe. These two are the row-based intrigues, the Imperium row-based intrigues. Manipulate is good. It's very conditional based upon the fact that if there has to be some good card on the row for you to get. That's why it's a C tier. Inspire Awe, well, you need to have worms. If you don't have worms, well, this intrigue is pretty useless. Unless, you get lucky and guild spies on the row and you just take it off the row. Pretty good. But, as I said, very conditional. That's why they're C tier intrigues for me. Finally, Chome Prophets and Counselor's Ambition. Counselor's Ambition, I put it as C tier because if you have Solari, you're probably gonna go play for Swordmaster, right? That's the obvious play, to go Swordmaster instead of High Council. Obviously, there's some plays where, you go High Council first because there's a good card on the row. But, again, that's why it's situational. It's not very often that you're going to be getting your seat on the High Council for the 2 water. That's why, because of that reason, I put it as C tier. Same with Chome Prophets. Completing 4 contracts is pretty difficult. Acquiring them is hard enough already. And then completing them, how often are people completing these contracts? So, it's not very common to complete all 4 contracts. So that's why this is C tier. Finally, the D tiers. This is the best use of using Imperial Privilege. You just, go there, trash an intrigue, and draw another intrigue. These two, well, I'm not even going to bother explaining these. They're just bad. Unless the contracts are good. Well, then you're lucky, I guess. So, why should you care about intrigues? So, first of all, based upon my little analysis here, we've established that there's 16 S tier intrigues. Out of the deck, there's 44 intrigues in total. So, what does that mean? That means there's a 36.36% chance of you drawing an S tier intrigue at the start of the game, or I guess any point in the game, around 36.36%, which is pretty good. What about an A tier intrigue? Well, there's 12 of them. So the 12 intrigues out of 44, it's a 27.27% chance. Well, now let's also look at the B tier intrigues, right? B tier intrigues, there's 8 of them. So that's a total of 18.18%. Most of these B tier intrigues are endgame, so I'm including, for S, A, and B, this is mostly your combat intrigues. This is your unexpected point intrigues, your in-hand point intrigues. This is your unexpected allies. All of these combined. So the fact that there's a lot of these shows you exactly what your percentages of pulling a good intrigue are if you were to go generate an intrigue. So let me just give you some numbers. If you, at any moment in time, right, if you were to draw an intrigue, the chance of you drawing either an S tier intrigue or an A tier intrigue is 63.63% chance. 63.63, that's almost 66%. That's a 2 in 3 chance of you drawing a very good intrigue, or either an S tier or an A tier. Now, what about all of them combined? Well, then it's an 81.81% chance. Do you know how strong that is? If you were to go draw an intrigue right now, I have 44 cards. It's a 4 out of 5 chance that you're drawing a very strong intrigue. And well, I mean, even if it's partly conditional, right? It doesn't matter because you can play for that strategy because it's early in the game. So that's why intrigues are so strong. So if you were to just generate an intrigue, it increases your chances by so much because it also increases ambiguity for combats. Your opponents don't know exactly how many swords you have in your hand. Now, speaking of swords, this is where combat matters because this game rolls highly around combat. So this is the amount of combat intrigues there are. There's a total of 12 combat intrigues in the game out of 44, which is a 27.27% chance, which is approximately 1 in 4. So if you were to go draw an intrigue, the first intrigue of the game, there's a 1 in 4 chance that you draw a combat intrigue. Why is this relevant? Because, well, imagine somebody goes assembly hall, right? Round 1, and then they try to enter combat in round 2. Well, now you know that they have a 1 in 4 chance of drawing a combat intrigue, of possibly beating you. So you can adjust your margins according to that. Furthermore, you can also see that at the start of the game, right, if you were to draw from any of the combat entries, so you assume that the person who went assembly hall hits the 25% chance or 27% chance that they hit a combat entry. Each combat entry, if they were to hold it at base value, so this assumes that tactical option has 2 swords, or spring the trap has 0 swords, because early in the game nobody has 2 spies or 3 spies for spice's power. So if you were to average out all the amount of swords at their base value of every combat entry, the base value is 1.75. So what does this mean? This means that if somebody goes assembly hall and then deploys next combat, and you want to know how many possible swords they have in their intrigues, you can assume 2. So if you can beat them by 2 swords, then you should definitely deploy into the combat. Now, what if it's later in the game? So this assumes that every single intrigue that can be powered up to its fullest has been powered up. So spring the trap assumes that the person playing it has 2 spies on the board. Spice's power implies that there's someone with 3 spies on the board. 3 spies in their hand. For the contract one, this assumes that they've completed at least 2 contracts for their 4 swords. So if every single combat intrigue was powered up to its fullest strength, it would be approximately 4.08 swords, which is approximately 4 swords per intrigue. Why is this useful? This is useful because during endgames, or not endgames, sorry, during late rounds, round 6, round 7, there's a high chance that these intrigues are so important because most people have powered up their intrigues. So as the game continues, the amount of swords on each intrigue gradually increases from 2 to 4. And depending on what round you are in, this could either mean that you have to include for combat calculations on their intrigues either having 2 swords, maybe 3 swords, or 4 swords each. And depending on that, you can change your margins. This is very key for winning combats in Uprising, and this is why this is the best tip that I can give you for winning games in Uprising. So now, go win Uprising.